Today, we're going to talk about the subject everyone loves, which is generating more sales from content marketing. So at Siege, we're very lucky to have a ton of world-class clients, and many of them were most excited about the articles that not generate 100,000 views per month. It's more the articles that generate 100 views per month and actually 100,000 plus in sales. And in this video, we're going to break down the best practices that enable that same amount of sales. And also, once you've got those best practices in place for your blog design, how you can go about analyzing your data to further iterate on that and generate even more conversions for your business over time. First, one of the main questions about content marketing is that it doesn't generate sales. It's top funnel. It's hard to do that with content marketing. And that's a fair thing. You're never going to generate as many sales with the top funnel as you will with those bottom funnel pages. But there's still some great best practices you can implement to generate even more traction for these pages to be more successful for you overall. So some of our go-tos for blog design to enable more sales are as follows. First, one of the things we see most frequently, especially in B2B markets, is to have a header that's not too tall, follow you on the blog experience with a call to action with contrast color in the top right. So this could be a get a quote, it could be shop now, it could be a sale. There's a lot of different variations which will show you that all perform in a nice way where your eye is drawn to it. But also the next element that's important is that it's not too tall as to be invasive in actual the shopping and reading experience for people. But when they want to do that, they have every ability due to that nav following you in that way. And this same thing should translate to the mobile experience where the nav follows you again, non obtrusively, to allow them to shop, get a quote, buy, get that sale, etc., in a way that is not too impacting their actual reading performance on the blog itself. As part of that, and with the nav following you, something that we find valuable both for sales and SEO is to have your blog actually inherit the navigation of the main site. So many people treat their blog as some kind of publication. And the reality and issue with this is that we want our blog to actually generate sales and we need it connected to the commerciality of the main business in order to make that a natural experience rather than a jarring one. So by having the navigation be shared, it's much easier for someone to scroll and find, shop the different category and landing pages that exist for your business rather than having a blog specific navigation instead. So ideally, those pages exist there. And the secondary benefit, not just the shopping experience, is one of the benefits of content marketing is the link equity that goes to these pages and helps fuel their growth. So by having a shared nav in a section that Google is more likely to value via the reasonable surfer model, you'll pass that value more directly as compared to just one link back to your homepage, which is common of poorly designed blogs. Other elements you can add to this are classy shop buttons for middle funnel content. So for things like how to choose a snowboard or set of skis, etc., you'll see on websites like REI, they'll actually have a classy looking shop or get a quote button that's not invasive on the content, but will be there to, again, draw the eye and feel prominent in the right places in that blog content because the blog is a more natural place for that kind of choosing selection type content that exists. You wouldn't want to do it the same way as the landing page, but these buttons are common and good best practice for generating conversions for your website. You can take that further though and also create a bigger visual call to action. I think where to do this would be mid to end post. And ideally, it makes sense in context of the actual blog post. So it's not just an ad, it's actually a visual that in context adds value to the post, but is also bigger than just a button might be. So you can see this in an example like Gusto. It is kind of addy feeling, but it's fine. Another great example here from MBroker. It's more of a startup insurance calculator. This makes sense in context of these articles and adds value for them. And then finally, with blog content, one of the best practices we've seen convert best in A/B tests is to actually have text-based links live on an island. And what I mean by live on an island is that they break out from other content such that the link draws your attention and feels isolated. It's also good to have one at the very end of an article. This will be very clear and draw your action to it as compared to just one word in a paragraph or something like that. This kind of go get a quote, buy now, those kinds of things with a sentence that is clearly linked as that call to action is seen to draw more conversions because it creates clarity, it's simplistic, and it kind of pulls things together for that final call to action as well. So the next step, once you have those best practices implemented, is actually start thinking about your data, improving on your data from a conversion rate optimization best practice point of view. So the first thing is just making sure you have your analytics set up in order to gather this data and further act on it as content starts to build out on your website over time. So what you want to do is just make sure goals are properly set up in analytics and make sure those common landing pages and different events that make sense for your website are in place. So for a blog, it could be consideration phase goals that are also useful. So for example, for Siege, we might look at who visits our work page, who goes to our services page. Many people won't be ready to buy immediately, but we can get additional value and understanding of what content is actually creating conversion value by setting up those goals in analytics. So you have those all set up. That's important for starting to gather data early on in a content marketing campaign so you can further refine it further down the line. On top of goals, a simple version is just to create a goal event from that, but it's even more valuable to actually create some values associated with those goals. So a little bit outside the purview of this video to go into step-by-step detail, but we'll find you a link of how to set up those goal values and associate them because they're important for prioritization and to do your best work to understand this is actually worth 100,000, 50,000, etc., which isn't always set up on some types of businesses. So from there, what you want to do in early stages with a company or your own website is to directionally go where you think value is with content marketing via a KOV analysis. So we have another video we'll also link to and show you here where we break down the keyword opposition and benefit framework. One of the things we do there is look at traffic value. So what this is an educated guess of what we were actually generate in sales. So this is a predictive framework to say sales will come if we start ranking for this, if we're thoughtful about making sure the traffic value metrics actually make sense and have value to the client and end user as well. So once that's in place and you're starting to rank for things, you'll be able to learn. You'll get some data, you'll start generating sales hopefully with these best practices in place, and you'll be able to actually go to your analytics platform and start understanding and iterating on that data. So when you're in analytics, our first suggestion is actually create a timeline that's long but not too long. So you want to create statistical significance or get as close to it as possible with your conversion data. Generally, this means 1,000+ visitors. Ideally, it would be concentrated rather than be spread out. But reality is that might not be possible for many spaces, especially B2B. So by getting around 3 to 4 months of data, we hopefully create visits in the thousands or 1,000+, which creates a little more confidence about what data we're seeing and learning from. So pull out that data, get several months of information, and then go to specifically your blog section. I for sure suggest creating segments for this to allow you to get specific data about your company in particular or your this content section in particular and isolate so you can understand blog or learn center, etc., as compared to other elements of the site, which could be very different in terms of conversion rate. So some things you're trying to gather from this data as you start looking at it and looking at conversion rates and actual sales, etc., are things like what is converting strongly despite low views. There'll always be articles like this, and we led at the top with articles that only have 200 views and a ton of sales. There will be articles that do this pretty consistently that might surprise you in some way. Generally, just seeing this data should help you reset mentally. I think as content marketers, we can go towards the path of many views and traffic, but seeing that those articles do nothing for you is a valuable process to reset to actual business outcomes, which is a true goal of content marketing at the end of the day. So this will help you understand maybe we should do more of that type. And also on the other side, you might have ahas about certain content you thought would convert, but in deeper looking at it, didn't. So an example for Siege specifically, we have this article on data sources. It's valuable. It's a good piece where we rounded up over 100 data sources. But the reality is most people that are thinking about strategy for content marketing aren't directly searching free data sources. That's not our buyer persona and really shouldn't be the kind of article we're creating for our clients over time. Our kind of clients want to increase sales for their content marketing and get more life out of that as we're learning from creating content like this. Other things that you'll pull out is there might be themes of successful content types that perform especially well. So something that we see very often in creating this content is you will see certain frameworks that are especially convertive in that work that you might want to reprioritize in your project plans to perform better over time. So this list will allow you to, or this looking at this data might show that maybe templates or cost topics or comparison pages might all convert better than you thought. And that aha moment of just how well it performed will give you understanding to push that up the prioritization metrics to do more of that. So with this in mind and also seeing this data, you can further refine this information to generate more sales. So one thing you would want to do is actually move some of this content higher in your architecture. So the benefit of that is twofold. So if you see content that's performing very well and above expectation, if you put it higher in the architecture, you will get it in front of more users. So it'll be one of those things where if you know this content converts, if you can get it more in front of the same buyer persona, likely you can generate even more conversions. But secondarily, by putting it higher in the architecture, the two most prominent areas being the navigation and also in the blog index or learn center, maybe right on the index page, you'll generate more SEO value because those pages will be seen as more important to Google. This will get these pages ranking better, generating more conversions, which you want to prioritize over those just random pages that might be visible on a blog index. Other things that can stand out from this are certain content types that are similar that have dramatically different content or conversion rates. So what you'll see here is you say two keyword ideas type posts, and you see they have dramatically different conversion rates or even different conversion rates. What you want to do is look at the differences between those two posts and start thinking through what about them actually indicates conversion for one over the other. So it's instructive to see those differences, and it not always will it be one-to-one because these are different topics at the end of the day, but if they're wide enough off, which we've sometimes seen articles with 50% difference, this can be a major aha to generate a ton more conversions they can bring specifically to one article type. So that's a beneficial process to get more value out of the current articles, and to dig deeper is you want to look at specific types and try to refine them and move up the conversion rate for articles that seem off from that overall process. And overall, with this, your prioritization should change once you've gotten around 6 months of data of ranking and conversions and a lot of articles of 1,000 plus. I would guess you would refine your initial keyword opposition and benefit analysis to actually use money generated to make new decisions about what we think other content in our pipeline would do in terms of sales. And this overall will help you generate more sales and be better performing from a revenue perspective end to end. One thing we occasionally see with this process as well is content that's actually been built on the blog, but could actually be better as a landing page experience. As content marketers, we shouldn't be biased to the thought process that content should live on a blog. A landing page experience is often optimal for conversion rate, and there's a reason why they always live on landing pages rather than blogs for that reason. We can be more aggressive with call to actions. We can use best practices. We can get creative with trust symbols and all of those things that allow for better conversion. That simply is not possible on a blog. So what you'll notice is some elements might actually convert super well and have conversion elements, and be on the blog and have huge sales. That's often an indication that maybe we should have had this as a landing page instead, and could be a thought process to migrate this off while being cognizant of potential risk of losing rankings in doing that. At very least, we should identify the content types that are clearly converting and consider them in a landing page instead versus a blog. Because in essence, in some ways, we want sales from a blog, but we can't be biased to the fact that blogs will sometimes convert worse than other articles. So in that essence, you'll learn from the data that sometimes if something is converting in the 10% plus, a landing page can often get that to 20%. A blog content type article is very rare to convert 10% plus. So if you're doing that, that could be a consideration for moving it to a template to allow that to convert further, maybe into 15 to 20% to generate even more sales from the content you created. So hopefully at the end of this video, you are bathing in a bath of cash in your home somewhere. You're enjoying it. You're converting more sales from content marketing and not getting that question anymore. When will this convert? So hopefully you like this video. I would love to hear your own ideas for how you convert content more efficiently and frequently. Please give us a thumbs up, subscribe, and let us know what you thought in the comments.